Clarence has always had a very interesting way of telling its stories. But perhaps the most creative of these was that one time they parodied the Cold War to tell a story about two kids from two different backgrounds. Now I know that sounds wild, but trust me, this actually works. Let me explain. Space Race is an episode that presents itself as a parody of the space race, a time in history where the USSR and USA competed to see who could get a man on the moon first. The kids get given an assignment to make their own rocket and compete in their very own space race. And this episode uses this theme to tell three completely separate stories in one episode. The first of these being about Jeff. As probably the smartest and least insane of the main three characters, Jeff has always shown an interest in the technical side of things. So when they play this video in class about the space race, the thing that he hyperfixates on is the spy theme. We see and read a book about the history of spying, and there's even a neat subtle joke with the name of the spy being John Doe. This makes perfect sense for his character because he's always thought highly of his own intelligence, and being a spy and having to use your wits to gain information would obviously be intriguing to him. Throughout the episode, he pulls off many acts of industrial espionage as he and his team begin constructing their rocket at Sumo's house.
Maybe we should collect data on other people's rockets. Good thing I got my numbers.
This part of the episode may get overlooked on your first watch, but there are so many gems of jokes and interactions that come from this part. Like I said in my last video about Clarence, which got demonetized by the way, this show really is just about kids doing kid things. So when I see Jeff pretending to be a rocket scientist to trick Wilson's group into breaking their own rocket, that just feels like something I would have actually done if I was in his position as a child.
How rude of me. My name is Rick Gentle, senior rocket scientist at NASA.
The great thing about this is that it never feels like they're taking the story too seriously. Everything from the shoddiness of the name tag to the glasses, and Belson clearly thinking that it was Jeff, but his crew just going along with it anyways.
Look, this is the astronaut, and he's going to Uranus.
They really let that shit slide, huh? Even this stupid ass Steve Urkel-ass title card. They throw in so many jokes while still moving the story forward at the same time. It never feels like his inclusion as basically the C plot of the episode takes time away from the other stuff the episode is trying to do. All three of the stories complement each other instead of stealing time from one another. Not only does this way of storytelling give each character their own motivations and time to shine, but it also breeds creativity, since not every character is doing the same thing, despite them all having the same goal. Jeff ultimately plays a small role in this episode, but I think his role is a testament to how good the writers are at making funny shit that actually has a purpose in the story. So that's Jeff's part done, and before we go to the next story, I have to mention the art direction of the show real quick. Since I'm not the most artistically inclined person on earth, I usually tend to overlook the actual art and animation of the stuff I talk about. Usually I stick to the story because that's what I'm most comfortable speaking on. But I can't deny that a lot of the great moments from this episode came from the animation itself. The facial expressions and gestures from some of the characters are what really sell you on the story. The show got a lot of flack for its art when it was airing, especially in the early seasons. The way the background characters were drawn in the designs themselves, and some of the more shocking decisions that they made. I will never forget this fucking episode. And yeah, I can't blame you for not digging it, but I really think those issues have not only been improved on, but the quality of these shots and faces have also improved. Like, look at some of these shots for a moment. They're not high art or anything, but it makes you feel exactly what they want you to feel. Speaking of feelings, Clarence's storyline is all about emotions. After the video of the space race is done playing, Clarence obviously has his own unique set of questions about it. Instead of asking about the spy stuff or the rockets, he asks this.
Where does the moon go in the day?
Oh, the moon is always there, Clarence. Circling around and around, controlling the tides, the weather, and some even say our emotions.
You see what I mean by the faces? Do you see this shit? This sets Clarence on a complete downward spiral, similar to the first time I heard Meet the Grahams. In a nutshell, Clarence doesn't like the idea of some big rock in the sky possibly controlling all his emotions. And since he's a gullible kid, of course it's gonna take a toll on him when he hears that. Of course he actually thinks the moon is controlling him. It makes sense because when you take a kid who's, let's not even lie to ourselves, most likely on the spectrum somewhere, and tell him that everything he feels is being controlled, how else would they respond? He goes through extreme measures to make sure that his mind isn't being controlled. He makes tinfoil hats, annoys others with his paranoia, and encases his entire room in foil in this creepy-ass Stanley Kubrick scene.
It's the moon!
Clarence!
Now, I do think it's a cute story, yeah, but honestly, this is easily the weakest of the three plots, mainly because it serves the least purpose in the grand scheme of things. Clarence doesn't even help build the rocket most of the time because he's so busy bitching that the moon is controlling him. It really becomes apparent that they couldn't find a meaningful way to incorporate this into the episode other than this little piece of tinfoil he attaches to the rocket. I still think it's good, not episode ruining in the slightest, but in terms of its overall effect on the episode, it's pretty weak. But hey, Chad does say some of the realest shit in this episode, so I'ma let it slide.
Life's like a box of donuts. You don't know what you're gonna get, but it's always gonna be awesome because no matter what, you're getting a donut.
Dad, your huevos rancheros are ready.
My huevo. Ooh.
Real quick before I go on, do you want to know how much I make off garbage content like this?
Nothing! Absolutely nothing!
So consider becoming a channel member. You get videos earlier than the regular subs, and these cool ass stickers I made in 30 seconds. Look at this. Just click the join button. You know what to do, nigga. Back to the video. The main part of this episode follows Sumo as he competes with Belson to build a better rocket than him, while at the same time trying to avoid summer school if his rocket is good enough. There's already layers to this shit that I have to peel back on some Pusha T stuff. Man, I cannot stop with the Drake jokes today. Shit. Sumo doesn't come from the best home. He has hella siblings and lives in a trailer park home. His parents are very southern country-like, and you can tell that Sumo takes after them a lot. He's not the smartest in the room, but what he lacks in that regard, he makes up for in determination. The moment he gets the assignment, he's entranced by the idea of space travel. When it comes to actually building it, even he knows he's completely out of his depth, but his determination never lets him stop, and he works day and night to get it done.
Look, with my allowance, I can just buy a rocket. So why don't you just work for me?
She said we had to build it, Belson.
Sumo and Belson have never seen eye to eye in this series, and a lot of that is because Belson is a rich kid who basically buys everything he needs. It's easy to see why someone in Sumo's position would hate him, because when you have to work for everything you have and see someone put in zero effort and get the exact same results, it's never a good feeling, trust me. Especially when Belson has the audacity to invite Sumo to his team just so that they can buy a rocket and pass. Of course he'd feel insulted and want to prove that he doesn't need his help. I can relate to Sumo in a few ways, and the reason his story is so intriguing is because you're watching someone achieve something in contrast to someone buying those achievements. It makes for a really fun watch when you see these two at the end finally duking it out and Sumo pretty much coming on top, but I'll get to that in a moment. Another reason why Sumo seems so hell-bent on getting his rocket is because everybody around him either isn't focused or just expecting him to fail. Sure, Jeff and Clarence do help, but it's clear they got their own shit going on as previously mentioned. Belson throughout the entire episode is also just trolling this dude, pulling up to his crib just to tell him he's washed is some devious shit.
Fun in summer school.
Even his own parents are expecting him to go to summer school since it's a family tradition. Nobody has faith in him, and it makes you want to see him succeed even more. Belson comes with the rocket that he bought. Now that I think about it, where do you buy a rocket? Who lets their child buy a rocket? And the two of them go toe to toe. God damn. They gave this nigga the challenger treatment. Sumo is rightfully pissed, but his teacher Miss Baker gives him some well-needed advice.
Doesn't matter who wins or loses. People are always going to look for the easy way out, you know, but you worked hard.
Not only is this ending a great moral, but it ties perfectly with the other two endings. Sumo's hard work gets rewarded, Clarence becomes more in tune with his emotions, and Jeff, he had fun. It ain't even gotta be deep, I guess. I find it so interesting how this show always goes under the radar when episodes like this are in its catalog. And it can tell stories using deeper themes and techniques better than most, honestly. And I hope that if you got at least one thing from this video, let it be this.